The Ardennes give nothing for free. Every climb hurts. Every move counts. In 2025, 3 riders came in with different stories, but one shared goal: control. Remco Evenepoel had a rough start. A crash in winter sidelined him for months. No early races, no rhythm. He came back in April, straight into the fire, untested but hungry. Mattias Skjelmose did the opposite. His season was precise, skipped Flanders, trained at altitude, arrived fresh, focused, and ready to prove he's no longer just a prospect. And then there's Tadej Pogačar, doing what he always does, winning. UAE Tour, Strade Flanders. He took what he wanted. He came into the Ardennes as the man to beat, yet never looked tired. In his world, there are only good days. Behind them, names like Healy and Giulio Ciccone waited for any chance to break through. 3 races, 3 mindsets, 1 open war. The Amstel Gold Race 2025 came with high expectations. The 253-kilometer course through the Limburg Hills promised a tactical and physical battle. The lineup was star-studded. Pogačar returned hungry for victory after a strong start to the season. Evenepoel was coming back from injury, eager to redeem himself, and Skjelmose arrived in form, though not considered a favorite. Pogačar's attack. The Slovenian goes big, with about 147 kilometers to go. Monmort on the hardcore, Cauberg. Today, Pogačar launched a Fleche, forceful attack. He had already warned with small previous moves, but on that climb, he unleashed his classic aggressive and explosive style. Only Julian Alaphilippe managed to follow him briefly, but he couldn't sustain the pace of the Slovenian, who launched an individual time trial to the finish. Pogačar went on to pull more than 40 seconds ahead, maintaining a ferocious pace as he left all the favorites behind. On a course with more than 30 climbs, it looked like he could repeat his exploits in races like Liège or Lombardy. But this time, the terrain was not entirely in his favor. The Ciccone and Evenepoel and Skjelmose's chase, strategic union. While Pogačar was flying solo, Remco Evenepoel was regrouping after an early crash. Although basically touched, he did not give up. He was instrumental in organizing the decisive pursuit. Wad Komai, allying with Mattias Skjelmose, who demonstrated tactical intelligence by not expending unnecessary forces before the critical moment. Both understood that if they wanted to have any chance, they had to collaborate. In the last 15 kilometers, he began to partially cut the gap, working flawlessly. Even without major relays from other riders in the group, they managed to reduce the margin until finally catching Pogačar with only 8 kilometers to go, just after the Cauberg. Ardennes, final 3-way finish, maximum tension. Once regrouped, the trio of Pogačar, Evenepoel, and Skjelmose from the rest. None wanted to risk too much with an attack that could benefit the other two. There were moments of tagging, tense glances, and small accelerations, but no one managed to take off. The final sprint. In the last Wanki's 300 meters, Remco launched the sprint first in a maneuver that surprised. Pogačar reacted quickly, but it was Mattias Skjelmose who stayed cool, waited for the ideal moment, and pulled out a textbook sprint in the last 100 meters to overtake them both with tremendous power. He won by barely half a bike. His celebration, a mixture of disbelief and excitement, evidenced the magnitude of what he had just accomplished. The 2025 Flèche Wallonne began under a gray sky with the wind gently blowing through the trees of the Ardennes, setting the stage for a brutal day of racing. The peloton, filled with some of the biggest names in cycling, set off with one clear goal: to conquer the feared Mur de Huy and claim victory in one of the most prestigious one-day races on the calendar. From the start, the pace was high, with teams controlling the peloton and riders looking for the right moment to make their move. Tadej Pogačar, the world-class Slovenian, was always near the front. While his team remained discreet in the early stages, his presence at the front signaled that he couldn't be left behind. Pogačar's strategy was clear: conserve energy and attack at the perfect moment. But he wasn't the only one. Remco Evenepoel, the world champion, had his own agenda. He knew that the Flèche Wallonne was an opportunity to show that, despite challenges in other races, his power in the classics was still intact. He stayed close to Pogačar, watching his every move, ready to strike if the situation was right. Meanwhile, young riders like Kevin Vauquelin and Skjelmose, the Belgian who had started to make waves in the peloton, were keeping an eye on the favorites. Both riders proved that the new generation of talent was ready to take on the big names. Vauquelin, with his composure and climbing ability, stayed among the strongest, while Skjelmose, with his steady pace and aggressiveness, also stood out. The race was a back and forth of attacks and counterattacks, but the real test came when the peloton began to ascend the feared Mur de Huy. The atmosphere was filled with tension. The climb, known for its extreme gradient and the hardship it imposes, is where the Flèche Wallonne is decided. In the first part, riders gritted their teeth, but it was in the final meters that everything unfolded. Pogačar, with his unstoppable climbing style, launched his attack halfway up the climb, dropping everyone who tried to follow. The Slovenian, with his smooth and controlled pedaling, created a gap that no one could close. Evenepoel, although he tried to respond with an acceleration, couldn't catch Pogačar. Behind them, Kevin Vauquelin also gave his best effort, but Pogačar's pace was too much to sustain. Meanwhile, Skjelmose didn't lose composure and, despite the tough terrain, stayed in the lead group, showing that he's destined for greatness. As they crossed the finish line, Pogačar had already secured his victory. His face reflected the satisfaction of a perfect effort, the result of impeccable strategy and flawless execution. Vauquelin, with a smile of pride, despite finishing second, crossed the line next, proving that his talent and future in the classics were assured. Pidcock, like Vauquelin, couldn't keep up with Pogačar's final push, but secured a solid third place, reinforcing his position among the best. Meanwhile, Evenepoel, though not part of the final podium battle, never stopped fighting. His fourth-place finish was a reminder that he will always be a threat, especially in races that suit his explosive attacking style. Ben Healy, another rider who showed strength at the crucial moments, put in a solid performance, making it clear that he's a rider to watch in future classics. With Pogačar's victory in the Flèche Wallonne, everyone's eyes immediately turned to the next major event on the calendar. Liège, Bastogne, Liege. Expectations were high. Pogačar, boosted by his win, was the favorite to take the Belgian Classic. But Evenepoel, hungry for revenge, and Skjelmose, the young Belgian who had left a strong impression, were also ready to fight. Liège promised to be another epic showdown, where these three riders would face off once again in search of glory. The Liège-Bastogne-Liège 2025 began with great expectations, especially for the favorites like Remco Evenepoel, who arrived hoping to redeem himself, and Mattias Skjelmose, who had shown impressive form in previous classics. However, as the race unfolded, it quickly became clear that Tadej Pogačar was in a league of his own. From the very first kilometer, Pogačar showed his dominance. Throughout the race, he was always in a prime position, and as the race approached the toughest climbs, such as the famous Roche au Faucon, the Slovenian accelerated with an impressive burst of speed. His attack was so strong that he quickly pulled away from the pack, leaving the other riders behind. While Pogačar was pulling away, the race took on a new dynamic. Ben Healy and Giulio Ciccone emerged as a chasing duo, determined to close the gap to the Slovenian leader. Both riders, with their great endurance and fighting spirit, managed to stay in contention and kept pushing to reduce the difference. However, despite their best efforts, Pogačar remained several minutes ahead, maintaining his steady pace. As the race progressed toward the final stages, the battle between Healy Mathieu and Giulio Ciccone for second place became the most exciting aspect of the race. Ciccone, the Italian, showed remarkable consistency throughout the day. With a solid pace and smart race tactics, he managed to stay in front of the chasing duo, using his strength on the long climbs. In the final kilometers, Ciccone launched a decisive attack and passed Healy's in the final stretch, securing second place. His ability to withstand the pressure and control his effort allowed him to outperform his fellow escapees in the final moments. Meanwhile, Ben Healy, as the Irishman, put on a valiant performance. Although he couldn't match Pogačar's pace in the final stages, his persistence and determination earned him a remarkable third place. Healy's effort to chase down the leader and his resilience in the face of adversity made him one of the standout riders of the day. The Ardennes Trilogy 2025 was a stage of grandeur and fierce battles, where Tadej Pogačar reaffirmed his absolute dominance with impressive victories in both the Flèche Wallonne and Liège-Bastogne-Liège, dazzling with his power and tactics. However, the true brilliance was not only found on Pogačar's throne. The Ardennes Trilogy 2025 not only crowned Pogačar, but also hinted at the rise of new heroes like Evenepoel and Skjelmose, who will continue to fight for their place in the history of cycling.